With patch 7.4 right around the corner, I feel like it is my duty to bring up a conversation about one of Final Fantasy XIV's longest standing mindsets. As someone who is both a hardcore progger aiming to clear fast and a filthy parse monkey, I feel like I've perfected the balance between these two mindsets. So, what's the difference between a progression mindset and a parse mindset? For those of you new here, my name's Samir. I talk a lot about raiding in Final Fantasy XIV, and I spend way too much time doing so, meaning I've been around the block long enough to know the difference between progging and parsing. But just so we're on the same page, let's take a little time to define the two. A progression mindset puts the clear above everything. Nothing matters more than getting the clear. Someone dies 1 minute into the fight, raise them and keep going. If you haven't seen enrage yet, then I'm not focusing too much on hitting my buttons, and that's a solid strategy used by many. A parse mindset puts personal damage above all. Clearing is still the plan, but you might be willing to play a bit riskier or greedier to squeeze out more damage in your log, or maybe you feel like clearing isn't worth it if your rotation wasn't clean. This is how I think of them at least. So now that we've defined them, when does it make sense to have a prog mindset and when does it make sense to have a parse mindset? In my mind, the prog mindset is the default. We all have to prog through a fight first, and personally, damage doesn't matter until I see enrage. Sure, I'll hit my buttons to understand how my rotation flows with the mechanics, but if I reach a mechanic I'm not familiar with, I'm absolutely dropping GCDs so my focus could be on solving the mechanic. Let me emphasize that again. Your damage does not matter until you are at enrage. Moving on to parsing, I think the only acceptable time to start caring about your parse is after you've cleared the fight. Nobody respectable cares about your first clear parse, and I don't think parsing is bad, just to be clear. It comes from a place of passion, from wanting to understand rotations deeply, and it's fun when all the pieces come together. But you need to understand, not everyone in Final Fantasy XIV cares about pushing damage to its limits. For prog, and honestly for most clears, intermediate rotation knowledge is more than enough. Does that mean you should never parse? No. No one is going to tell you not to have fun. I get it. Doing big damage is fun. I'd be the last person to tell you not to parse. What I will tell you is that there's a time and place. If you hop into Party Finder to parse, I can't stop you. But be respectful. Most people are there for the clear. So if you're going to parse, do it in the least risky way as possible. And of course, there are groups that are dedicated to parsing. If you're in one of those groups, go crazy. But to build off this, I think everyone stands to gain by taking aspects of both of these mindsets and form what I like to call a play to learn mindset. You see, parsing is the interest of doing the most damage you can. Progging is to get through the fight and play for the clear. However, you do need to be doing damage to clear a fight, and there are things you can carry over from parsing that are safe to use in prog. For example, pooling your resources for buff windows because that's where your abilities will do the most damage, and maximizing pot windows in and out of buffs depending on the fight. These are things that cost you nothing to do in terms of safety and will increase your damage by a considerable amount. You also stand to gain more damage by understanding more about your rotation outside of prog. The players who are trying to clear the fastest have gotten to a point where they are not thinking or even looking at their buttons. They've built up so much familiarity with their rotations that they can allocate almost all of their focus on mechanics. You see, you don't just gain a cool number on a website when you're parsing. You gain more in-depth knowledge about your job, as well as developing an understanding of the damage profile of that job that you play. You would also be able to know what's too risky to go for and avoid those choices. A good example of this is with casters. They have to plan their instant cast abilities around mechanics that require movement in order not to get hit by those mechanics. But you'll notice that the top tier caster players tend to be more autonomous with how they handle this and tend to look like they're freestyling, and that's because they are freestyling. These players aren't following a specific rotation, and depending on the mechanics, they might be performing a different rotation altogether from pull to pull, and that's where the play to learn mindset comes into place. Knowledge is everything in Final Fantasy XIV. It's what determines your value as a player, and I think leaning too much into one mindset would make you an overall weaker player than someone who has found the perfect balance of the two. I know we got a little bit sidetracked there, but I think overall, you should always be looking to find the best of both worlds in anything. And to be honest, there isn't a whole lot more to talk about this topic, but if you think I missed something or you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. I read them all and respond as fast as I can. I've also started a community on Discord. We focus on high-end rating and optimization in general, but we also love to have fun down there, so hop in if you want to ask me questions one-on-one. Make sure to leave a like. If you have any friends who are also parse monkeys like me, make sure to subscribe because I'm on a roll with these videos almost twice a week, and I'm looking to push even more. Also, I stream live on Twitch Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, where I answer questions live there as well. As always, I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.